Are you ready to see your grocery bill take a wild turn? September is shaping up to be a challenging month for shoppers, with some familiar kitchen staples set to skyrocket in price. From climate issues impacting harvests to global market disruptions and economic shifts, several everyday items might start feeling less like essentials and more like luxuries. But don't worry, knowledge is power, and we're here to keep you ahead of the curve. Stick around as we unveil 8 grocery products that are expected to make a big jump in price. Trust me, you'll want to know what's on this list so you can prepare your budget, your pantry, and even find a few savvy ways to save along the way. Get ready to spot the trends, protect your wallet, and stay informed. Let's jump right in. 1. Bread and wheat-based staples. Bread, pasta, and other wheat-based goods might soon hit your grocery cart with significantly higher price tags. What's behind this shift? The global wheat market is facing a mix of challenges that are shaking up supply and demand dynamics. While wheat production reached a record high of 784 million metric tons last year, driven by favorable weather in some regions, the demand for wheat is growing even faster. This imbalance is creating tighter global supplies. One major contributor to this squeeze is the European Union, a key player in wheat exports. Adverse weather conditions have slashed the EU's wheat output by 9% this year, shrinking it to 122 million metric tons. This regional shortfall has caused global wheat buyers to scramble, intensifying the already strained market. Then the rising cost of fertilizers and energy, key inputs for wheat production, and the cost of getting wheat from the farm to your table is climbing at every step of the supply chain. The ripple effects are being keenly felt here in the United States. Wheat futures have been hovering around $534 per bushel. This relatively stable figure might sound like a win, but it's a reflection of reduced global supplies and market efforts to balance production with soaring demand. Countries like Egypt, a major wheat importer, have even resorted to increasing basic bread prices by 300% to manage the rising costs. These global-driven challenges are making bread and wheat products more expensive worldwide. The USDA projects a 1.16% spike in food-at-home costs next year, which includes everyday essentials like bread. If you rely on wheat products as a staple in your diet, these price hikes are something you'll want to watch out for. Stocking up on non-perishable wheat-based foods like pasta could help buffer your pantry against these rising prices. For budget-conscious shoppers, exploring alternatives like rice or oat-based products might offer some relief. But as global economic pressures, weather disruptions, and logistical issues persist, the affordability of bread, a food most of us consider basic, is increasingly at stake. 2. The climbing cost of coffee. Your morning cup of coffee might be set to stretch your wallet more than you'd like. The global coffee market is brewing a storm of challenges, and the result is escalating prices for both Arabica and Robusta coffee. Arabica prices have surged to an eye-watering $3 per pound, which hasn't been seen since the late 1970s. Meanwhile, Robusta futures peaked at $5,829.00 per metric ton earlier this year. What's driving these record-breaking numbers? First, Brazil, the largest coffee-producing nation in the world, has been hit with severe drought conditions. These climate events have led to substantially reduced coffee yields. Similarly, Vietnam and Indonesia, key Robusta producers, have faced their own climatic difficulties, further tightening global supplies. The El Niño weather pattern has taken an additional toll, severely disrupting harvest over the past few years. But weather isn't the only factor. Regulatory and environmental policies are also pushing coffee prices. For instance, new EU deforestation regulations require importers to provide proof that their coffee was not produced on deforested land. Complying with these rules has created bottlenecks in the supply chain, driving up costs. For U.S. consumers, these global pressures are translating to price increases, whether you're buying a bag of coffee beans at the store or indulging in your favorite latte at a local cafe. The USDA predicts a 1.6% rise in food-at-home prices next year, reflecting these added costs. Interestingly, while analysts suggest there may be moments of relief as new coffee crops enter the market, structural challenges like climate volatility and sustainability demands mean coffee prices are likely to stay higher than usual for the foreseeable future. If you're a coffee lover, consider buying in bulk or exploring alternative blends to reduce your spend. You might also want to rethink that second or third cup. A hard adjustment for many, but one that could help ease the impact on your wallet. 3. Orange juice woes. Orange juice is a breakfast favorite for millions, but its price tag has been climbing at a faster rate than any other beverage. That's because the global orange juice market is battling its toughest challenges in decades. The production of oranges, particularly in Brazil, the largest orange juice producing country, has plummeted. This year's crop is at its lowest in 35 years, largely due to an unrelenting drought and a citrus greening disease that has affected almost 40% of Brazil's orange trees. Florida, another major orange producer, has also been hit hard. Over the past 20 years, orange production there has diminished by an astonishing 92%. Natural disasters like Hurricane Milton wiped out significant amounts of fruit just before harvest, leaving little room for recovery. The result? Wholesale prices for orange juice have soared to over $6,500 per ton, more than double the price from the prior year. Big brands are passing these costs to consumers. Retail prices for orange juice jumped by as much as 34%, making it one of the most noticeable price increases in grocery store aisles. Some companies are trying to mitigate the issue by blending in alternatives like mandarin oranges, but this hasn't stopped retail prices from continuing their upward trend. With these production challenges expected to persist due to both weather patterns and ongoing citrus diseases, experts suggest orange juice prices will remain high for years. That could lead to more consumers turning to cheaper beverage options, which might permanently shift consumer habits away from traditional orange juice. 4. Sugar prices set to spike. Craving something sweet? Be prepared to pay more for sugar and sugar-filled products. The global sugar market is reeling from a combination of production declines, rising demand, and weather disruptions. In India, the world's second-largest sugar producer, output has dropped by 35% this season. Delayed harvests and poor weather conditions have been the major culprits, and as a result, India is withholding export quotas. This decision is creating ripples throughout international markets, since India is a key stabilizer in global sugar trade. Cuba, once known as a global sugar powerhouse, has seen its industry collapse. With deteriorating infrastructure and a lack of resources like fuel and fertilizers, Cuban sugar production is at an all-time low. On top of this, Brazil, the world's largest sugar exporter, is battling its own set of issues. Widespread droughts and wildfires in the center-south region have severely impacted harvests. These local struggles are further amplified when coupled with increased consumption globally. Sugar futures have climbed to levels above 22 US cents per pound, a significant jump that is reflected in grocery store prices. The United States is already grappling with tightening sugar inventories, and the USDA has adjusted its sugar stocks-to-use ratio downward, signaling even tighter supplies in the near future. Furthermore, sugar production faces a slower recovery timeline. Unlike many short-cycle crops, sugarcane takes time to reestablish once it has been damaged. These delays will keep prices elevated not just for raw sugar, but also for products that use sugar as a core ingredient. Think candy, baked goods, soft drinks, and beyond. For consumers, understanding these trends can help you adapt. Stocking up on sugar or sugary products now could be a smart move if your budget allows. Alternatively, consider exploring recipes with reduced sugar. The road ahead points to pricier desserts and more expensive snacks, making this a sweet indulgence that's becoming increasingly expensive. 5. The rising costs of cooking oils. Cooking oil is an essential staple for most kitchens, but its price is heading toward a spike that many shoppers will feel. The market for cooking oils, including soybean, olive, palm, and sunflower oils, is under pressure from a mix of agricultural, economic, and environmental factors. Starting with the United States, domestic farmers are grappling with the rising influx of cheap imported used cooking oil, primarily from China. While this might seem like a cost-saving alternative, it has caused disruptions in the local market. Farmers in America who have invested heavily in cultivating soybeans for both cooking oils and biofuels now face an uneven playing field. These imports, priced significantly lower, destabilize domestic businesses and threaten the sustainability of local agricultural investments. Many farming organizations are lobbying for stricter policies to protect the American-grown products, but until such measures are enacted, the domestic cooking oil market could remain volatile. Shifting our focus to India, the agricultural scene tells a different story. Farmers here are wary of rising temperatures and changing weather patterns. With heat waves becoming more severe and frequent, cultivating traditional oilseed crops like mustard and rapeseed is becoming harder. Many farmers are transitioning to less heat-sensitive crops, such as wheat and potatoes. This shift is expected to reduce rapeseed production by 10% this year. Consequently, India will likely rely even more heavily on imported palm, soybean, and sunflower oils to meet its household demand, further influencing global prices. Turning over to Europe, olive oil production is finally seeing some relief after 2 tough years of drought. Thanks to favorable rains in spring 2024, Europe, particularly Spain, is expecting a robust 31% uptick in olive oil production. With prices in the U.S. reaching unprecedented heights, some bottles costing over $12.00, this surplus could provide some much-needed price relief. Brands like Bertolli and Carbonell expect olive oil prices to drop by as much as 50% by January 2025. However, not every consumer is ready to return to olive oil, considering the appeal of cheaper alternatives like sunflower oil. Time will tell whether this recovery significantly impacts consumer habits. Adding a curious twist, innovation is stirring in the world of cooking oils. Top-tier chefs are experimenting with sustainable alternatives like oils derived from microalgae and fermentation. These eco-friendly alternatives use fewer resources and boast excellent culinary versatility. Though scaling production and reducing costs remain challenges, many experts view these sustainable oils as the future of cooking, possibly coming to a grocery aisle near you. Whether it's due to rising temperatures, geopolitical concerns, or new sustainability trends, the cooking oil industry is evolving rapidly. Prepare to see a mix of price adjustments, new options, and potential shifts in your go-to grocery list. 6. Dairy products, a creamy dilemma: milk, cheese, butter. These dairy staples are facing a whirlwind of change as consumers brace for price hikes tied to industry disruptions. The U.S. dairy sector, in particular, is at the heart of this upheaval, with production, demand, and the global market pulling prices in different directions. One of the first indicators of how the landscape is shifting lies in dairy cow prices. The cost per cow jumped nearly 30%, from $1,900.00 in 2023 to roughly $2,500.00 by mid-2024. However, the actual number of dairy cows in the country has declined by 40,000 head in just 1 year. Fewer cows producing amid increasing demand creates a tricky situation where market consolidation forces smaller farms out and prices inch higher. Milk production in 2024 is expected to reach 226 billion pounds, a moderate growth. But here's the catch. Milk prices aren't keeping pace with inflation or production costs. The all-milk price has been revised down to $22.00, 75 per 100 pounds. This imbalance leaves many dairy farmers in financial limbo, struggling to make profits despite increasing overall output. Butter has arguably been the star or villain of the dairy market. Prices for butter have hit jaw-dropping levels. European rates are as high as $8,706.00 per metric ton, a sharp 83% jump over last year. U.S. butter prices have risen as well, with no immediate sign of solid relief. The tight supply and prioritization of cheese production over butter processing aren't helping matters. Cheese, however, is experiencing its own boom. Experts project a $38.00, $8 billion, market increase from 2024 to 2028 thanks to its integration into new culinary creations and cuisines. The challenge lies in balancing this popularity with sustainable production models. Concerns about methane emissions driven by cattle farming weigh heavily on the industry, forcing many dairy companies to consider innovative adjustments. One surprising twist in the dairy story comes from the plant-based milk space. Companies like Starbucks have recently eliminated extra charges for plant-based milk products. This change could set a precedent, encouraging more consumers to explore non-dairy options, further complicating the traditional dairy market. Legislation also looms large with the expiration of the U.S. Farm Bill in late 2024. Uncertainty about agricultural support programs threatens to create what some are calling the dairy cliff. Without federal backing, consumers may see skyrocketing costs for basic dairy products in 2025. Whether it's butter on your toast or milk for your cereal, expect price bumps and some new options in the dairy aisle. 7. Canned goods, comfort food at a new cost. Canned goods have long been a reliable, budget-friendly option, but even these staples aren't immune to rising costs. The global canned goods market is growing steadily, with an expected value of over $109 billion, 0 cents, by 2029. Yet, this growth hides challenges that are already making their way to your grocery bill. First, there's the undeniable convenience factor. Canned vegetables, fruits, and proteins like tuna and chicken have become an irreplaceable part of busy households. Companies have expanded into ready-to-eat canned meals that met high demand during the pandemic and continue to see strong interest from urban and time-strapped demographics. However, supply chain bottlenecks are creating cracks in this dependable industry. Aluminum shortages, labor disputes, and logistical delays have made producing and delivering canned goods more expensive. Some regions have particularly felt the pinch, where reliance on imports drives up costs further. Competition adds even more tension. Local canning companies in many countries are competing directly with cheaper imports, creating a precarious situation for farmers. Less demand for local produce means reduced orders for fruits and vegetables, threatening the sustainability of agriculture. Interestingly, innovation is becoming a key differentiator in the canned goods market. Beyond traditional foods, manufacturers are branching into canned beverages such as cocktail mixers and artisanal sodas, which have garnered strong interest. Expect to see some creative, value-added products on store shelves soon. Environmental concerns are also steering the industry towards sustainable canned packaging. This push will demand further investment and perhaps higher short-term prices, but aligns with what today's eco-conscious consumer values most. Canned goods aren't just about convenience anymore, they're about keeping pace with evolving demands while managing costs. Rice, the global staple feeling the squeeze. Rice, often called the backbone of global food security, is seeing rising prices that could disrupt dinner tables worldwide. With a global market projected at $376.00, $54 billion in 2024, this staple crop is facing a whirlwind of challenges and shifts. Half of the world's rice comes from China and India, with other southeastern nations like Vietnam and Thailand playing significant roles. Yet climate change and evolving land use policies have pushed some areas toward crisis. India, for example, has removed the floor price for non-basmati exports to help their farmers remain globally competitive. This step could flood the market temporarily, but long-term balance remains uncertain. Meanwhile, Indonesia has taken an aggressive approach, aiming to expand 3 million hectares of farmland to reduce its reliance on imported rice. These measures are crucial because urbanization and frequent environmental catastrophes, from typhoons to droughts, are putting immense pressure on rice-producing lands. At the consumer level, preferences are also shifting. Specialty rice varieties like jasmine and basmati are finding their way onto more plates, reflecting diverse culinary trends. With this variety demand comes increasing interest in sustainably grown and organic rice. Technological advances like drought-resistant rice strains are helping, but offer only incremental relief against the scale of challenges the industry faces today. For now, price-conscious shoppers may see higher costs with fewer short-term solutions in sight. Stay tuned as this global staple lends itself to evolving market forces that could affect kitchens worldwide.